Howdy, welcome. We're going to be talking about this Starfall Mystery Starkiller number 13. This is, I don't know, third or fourth Starkiller I've done wrapping up recently. This one, obviously, like a lot of them, features a lot of hand-machined items, a few found parts, and then, as always, we've got our exposed Starkiller crystal. This one is being lit by a single Neopixel below, but we also have a crystal strip behind there. I generally program that to just come on in the on state as to not kind of wash out. There's a couple exceptions to that rule, just so that we can show off the fact that it's customized programmable. And then we've got, our low profile tactile switch box with 2 dome tactiles. So we get that good clicky feel. Top is our main, bottom is our aux. This big giant thumb screw on the back is our blade retention screw. One thing to note here, I'll come to that. And then we have this cool custom blade plug. I think that comes from the Starfall Infinity line, but that's going to come here. So how we get to everything is we want to engage this set screw. It's generally in line with the side screws of the crystal chamber. And then we want to make sure that we just do that enough to expose the grip. And then we can show off the additional lower crystal chamber featuring a quartz. And then my resin greeblie chassis with a bunch of chassis accents. Let's hop down to the table. Let's talk more about those in detail, along with what goes on with the programming with these. Again, we'll come to talk about a couple other things as well. But yeah, we'll do that. We'll put the grip back on, we'll come back out, we'll put a blade in it, we'll show off a few things, swing it around, and then we'll wrap it up. So here we are. Again, I've got the grip already off. We're showing off the on state, so we're just on the Starfall preset. And then we're showing off the fact that these are independently programmable crystals, along with independently programmable Edison filament in this baffled greeblie. And then we've got a chassis accent with 3 different strips that can all do different things. We can see the outer 2 are mirrored and the inner does its own thing. And then, yeah. So there is a crystal strip. I'll start this up muted to show that off. So if we double tap power, we can start the Saber muted. So we can see that's a blue, and then it goes, what do we want to call that? Up, swiping up. We can see the colors to these 2 are a little different, this one being red and this one being orange. And then one thing I like to do with my Edison filaments is not program them to go full brightness until we clash or blast. So if we turn this light down just a smidge, we can see that it's kind of doing a like audio flicker a little bit, and then I'm hitting the aux button to light it up. Turn the Saber off, go to a different one, so now we can see that's pulsing, right? Start it up muted, and now we can see again it's kind of jittery, goes brighter, and then if I clash while holding a button, now we're engaging a lockup, and you can see it's a little bit more active. Now, it is obviously under this vent greeblie, or baffle greeblie, so we're not seeing things as directly as we are with our naked eye, but yeah, so we got a 28mm KR bass speaker. I did fully enclose it with some sealant. We've got our Proffie V3, our kill switches right here. And then, yeah, we've got our accent strips. So if we hit aux when the blade is off, yeah, when the blade's off, we'll switch up. So here we can see, again, different programming. This one's doing a pulse, this one's doing this one's doing a blinking pattern, this one's doing a pulse pattern, but they're both generally purple. And again, we've got our blinking Blue Edison filament. And tried to match the aesthetic with the chassis paint job as I normally do, so we've kind of got this aluminum look with some, brass popping out, little flashes of color here and there, some heat staining pigments here, and here on the baffled greeblie as well. We got my my custom wrap battery. Let's turn this off for just a second. And I like to just smack it with my wrist to pop the battery out. Starfall logo in there, positive clearly indicated. As always, though, spring sides are negative. So when we want to put this in, nipple goes to the nipple, and then we can rotate this if we want to see my logo, or in this direction, or if you generally hold your saber in this direction, you can rotate it the other way. We're just seeing my initials, by the way, CAS. The rest of it's just these accents. So we'll hit our kill switch to the right, get our boot sound. Proffie V3 configs on the SD card should you choose to decide to learn how to program. In the config, I set up a template file, so it's commented out right now, but you can copy the preset template, paste it elsewhere, and then copy and paste in a bunch of different blade styles. So up top, like I mentioned, we do have a blade plug. So one thing I wanted to mention was we do have this blade retention. This came with another one, and while this does have enough thread to grip to something, the fact that it is super low next to the emitter, if you have a blade that is a little, janky, what I'm going to do is I machine down an M4 or 5, I forget what the matching thread is. You can use this as a blade retention. So what I did do was, so this is just mechanically, the bunny ears are mechanically secured here with this, I think this is like a 1032 set screw that Nick provides. So this again is my metric equivalent because I don't have one like that. But I machined down the sides to kind of match this type of nut style. This is not necessary, but just because I was a little concerned about it only gripping the quarter and the fact that this, so I had two sabers come with this same thumb screw, but this one seemed to be just a little shorter. It's still in there pretty good. You can see there's like, I don't know, about 2 millimeters sticking in. So that's plenty enough to, maybe more like 1.5 millimeters, but plenty enough to grip something. But because it's only gripping at the bottom, of your blade, my thought was, if you've got like a PCB holder and it just grips the PCB holder, then your blade could fly off. So not something that I normally would worry about. But like I said, this came just a little different than the other one that's like it. And I was like, I'm just going to provide that because I think that's worth my time. So again, 100% not necessary. But if you're concerned like me, when you grip the blade higher up, you get a more stable connection. And like I said, the fact that this was mechanically connected, I put just a little bit of E6000. So if you do decide to disengage that screw and use the one I provided, the bunny ears won't fly off. So again, 100% not necessary, but I'm just providing it as a just in case.
Hero's journey.
But if we, keep scrolling through, we can see I do a little bit of something different here. We've got like a aqua color on the lower crystal while it's green on that one. And then these change in the on and off state. And again, everything responds to blaster blocks. Oops. So up top, we've got our Shtok Eco V4. This will just mimic what the blade does. I didn't decide to do anything crazy with this. So you're only going to get shine through when you actually turn on your fonts and whatnot. So that being said, let's put a blade in it. So we'll put the grip back on. And again, you'll see a little bit of a marred surface there from where this has been aligned with these screws and then engaged. This is my Allen key. I've kept the supplied Allen key in your baggie with your stickers. So let's hop out. This takes a 1-inch diameter blade, and I'm going to use my 7/8 quantum blade with a 1-inch adapter. And so like I mentioned, I'm going to make sure that that adapter is all the way down so that that thumb screw can cinch down on it. And it's not going anywhere. But again, I do have that other set screw just in case. So when we're ready, we can hit power to turn on the saber. Power is going to just get us into regular mode. So if we want to clash the saber, we'll get glancing blade effects. If we want to engage a lockup, we have to hold either power or aux as we clash. So do that here. For as long as I'm holding, right? Aux for blaster blocks. But we do have gesture on, so we have a twist on and we have a thrust on. And that will get us into battle mode. If there is a pre-on, you can only get the pre-on by hitting power in regular mode. If we do a gesture, we'll bypass the pre-on. But now we're in battle mode. So we'll still be able to do light clashes and get glancing blade effects. But if we do really lock down on it, now we're in a lockup until we pull out of that position. Now lockups are also melt effects. So if we're pointing sideways, you see. And the longer I hold it, the more active it gets. And then if we're pointing down, we'll get drag. And again, I just did that because now I don't have to hold the button as I clash. But if you're the type of saber wielder that likes to be in absolute control and you don't want those things to kind of go off accidentally, you can always just hit power and you're in regular mode and you're in control of when a lockup occurs. So Ruin is one that has a pre-on. So I hit power. I can twist off, but if I twist on, I'm gonna bypass that pre-on. I'm just gonna get my ignition effect, right? And if I hold power for 2 seconds, I'll do a force effect. So on my force effects, as long as a sound is occurring, the blade will do a different animation. This one's a little bit more active than other of the Starfall fonts because it's an unstable style, so we get more flashing.
Reconcile.
But if we go to like Reconcile, and we do a force effect, we can see it just kind of goes unstable for as long as that sound plays, right? If there are quotes, I don't know that this one has one, but if we want to switch between force player and quote player, we can hold power for 2 seconds while the saber's pointed down. So let me get to one that I know is true.
Infinium.
Okay, so we'll do Infinium. So start it up. So let me just demonstrate a force effect. So hold power for 2 seconds with the blade on. Goes unstable for that. Now if I point the hilt down, the blade doesn't do anything, but it's talking. And again, we can point the hilt down and flip back to force player. And now with the force player, it actually does animate the blade. Just throwing that out there in case you add presets in the future, all they need to do is have a quote in the quote folder, and then if you can flip back and forth, that feature is turned on by default. If there's not quotes on the preset in that font folder, it just won't do anything.
Heroes reconcile.
So just throw off another one, just to show off. You can just show off the crystal, doing something different. That strip in the back. And then it. With Corn Horn, we have color change direct. So when the saber's on, if we hold Aux and tap power, both the blade and the crystal are gonna go from white or whitish, silver, to a purple color. So let me do that real quick. Hold Aux, tap power. Hopefully you can see that go up my arm. And now the crystal is purple as well. Now it's back to white. That is just Corn Horn, and it's because there's like a 2-phase lore to his particular crystal. If we're on any other font,
Legacy.
when we hold Aux and tap power, we get into color change mode. So we hear a little chime.
Red. Orange, red.
Now I provided the Proffie OS voice pack from Brian Connor. This one is Luke. If I knew who the character was on any individual font, I'll put that character in that font folder. So you'll have different OS voice packs for different
Dark orange.
presets.
Orange.
And
gold,
he's letting
yellow.
us know. If we like that color, we press power to accept. I'm gonna hit revert because I programmed these specifically.
Revert.
One thing to note is it will only change the main blade color. All my accent colors are based on a different thing for color change on the fly. So if you want to change those things, you'll need to get into edit mode. Now, I don't cover edit mode, but there will be a printout that will cover edit mode, and then you'll just have to learn that it goes through each blade individually. You can turn the on color, the off color, the blast color, clash color, all that stuff. If we want to do a quick thing with the voice pack,
Lights.
We'll go to a different one. If we hold aux and tap power in the off state, so just like we were doing color change, but in the off state, we'll get a battery level.
Battery level 92%.
So now we've got Obi-Wan Kenobi on this particular one. If we hold power and tap aux in the off state, we'll get into volume level.
Enter volume menu.
Now I tend to program these to a certain level and then back them off. So
Maximum volume. Exit volume menu.
these Starkiller hilts are really well designed, and the 28mm speakers are really loud and clear. So you can pump them. I tend to not do that.
Battery level 93%.
Because there are some fonts out there that can really bass it out and make it sound weird. And then it also just saves a little bit. So again,
Enter volume menu.
I'm going to back it off.
Exit volume menu.
And then as I've been demoing it, you've been hearing how loud it is. So it's still plenty loud. But that being said, you know, you can crank it if you want. And then each voice pack, like I said, will be a little different. Now, if there wasn't one, or if you add fonts in the future and they don't come with voice packs in their folder, the default one is in the common folder, and that's Starkiller, because this is a Starkiller. So again, props to Brian Connor for doing all of that work to set those up. There's a whole bunch of them out there. He generally offers them for free, but I tend to support him. So Ascension, Legacy, and Alliance all have preons. So again, if you want to see those preons, you have to hit power. They're all sound reactive, and the last three kind of are really short bursts. So they'll do something different. They won't be as noticeable as I demonstrated with Ruin, but we'll show it off just in case. So it's just kind of glitchy. Each preon sound, there's like 3 or 4 different ones for each of those fonts, are a little different. So it responds differently, right? So we've already seen the 2 there. Again, that one's a little glitchy too. So again, that's just if you engage the preon with power. If we want to twist on, bypass it, and now we're in regular mode. All right.
Battery level.
The very last preset is a battery level indicator. I have programmed these for a 36-inch blade length, which is 132 pixels in length. If you decide to buy a blade that's a little bit less than that, you may not have to change it to still get tip effects. But with edit mode, you can jump into edit settings, edit blade length, and then you can get to actual specific pixel length of your particular blade that you buy. So what you'll do is you'll get into edit mode, and then as you rotate this main blade, then it will kind of decrease. And then the moment you see the very last pixel is white, then you'll hit accept, and that's your blade length. But because I have it programmed, right now the bubble is here. If this was 100% charged, this bubble would be all the way out here and might be green. I forget if there's a different color there. But as this depletes, it will come closer and closer toward the emitter. It will also start to change from this bluish down to yellow to red, or to amber to red. And then depending on what's going on with the rest of the chassis or other things, if there's sound going on, you may start to hear artifacts in your sound, which just means to charge your saber. So again, you can always hold aux and tap power in any preset, not just this battery level, to get a percentage, and that percentage could fluctuate depending on what's going on with the saber. So when the blade's not in, the crystal and some of the chassis accents will go from green to red, and unlike this bluish, but it'll be very clear. But again, like I said,
battery level 87%.
So very well done.
Starfall.
That's going to cover it. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me to the customer after you receive this. I, again, will have that printout, so I highly recommend consulting the printout first in case you don't understand how to operate the saber. There will be a link to the FET263 website and his controls to go into further detail. He's got videos all over his website describing everything that he puts into his prop file. I don't cover any of that here, and it may not be fully covered in the just how-to functions of the saber on that printout, so it may be worthwhile. But you can learn pretty quickly the main stuff by either watching this video, some of my older videos, or some of his videos. And then again, if you don't understand anything, feel free to reach out. But that's the saber. When we're ready, we can put the blade plug back in, engage that set screw, and then grab our Allen key, pop that set screw up, and making sure it's just engaged enough to not scratch up the saber, but not fall out. And then we'll hit our kill switch right here, and then all our chassis goes away to show that it turns off. And we're ready for long-term storage. So that is Mystery Starkiller number 13. So to the customer, again, thanks for your patience and your patronage. And to the rest of you, may the force be with you.